Hey guys, it's M4J here, and welcome back to the M4J network here on OpenTTD. Bit of a chill, relaxed video this week. I'm not doing anything too excessive or anything like that. I'm kind of plugging some gaps that I built for myself over the last couple of weeks with the little projects that I was doing. Mainly the Brenfingli to Winston line that I built 2 weeks ago, I believe it was now. Or maybe 3 weeks ago, because I'm pretty sure I missed an upload. Anyway, before I go any further, you'll notice that the sides of the screen here are slightly cut off. That is intentional. I actually forgot that I had it set up like this, but basically I was fed up with the black bars at the top and the bottom of the screen. I felt like they were taking away from the video. Very, very annoying, especially when editing. So I thought the best way to solve that was to stretch the footage, stretch the capture, sorry. What's the scene? That's the word I was looking for. So that the black bars disappeared, and I forgot that because I did that, it means that the sides go off the side of the screen. So just wanted to point that out now, because someone will tell me in the comments if I don't point it out immediately that there is an issue there. So just wanted to get ahead of the curve on that one and let you guys know that yes, there is a what would you call it, graphics issue, graphical issue, display issue, something like that. I mean, I wouldn't even call it an issue myself. There is an anomaly with the graphics, but I am aware of it, and it was meant to be an intentional thing. The main thing is I wasn't actually expecting to be adding any trains to the network anytime soon, and that is why I just didn't notice until this week. But yeah, today we're adding 3 new services to the network, all of which on the Guard City Great Eastern franchise. The first one, I've got my game open on my other screen here. The first one is kind of a semi-fast. It's mainly a semi-fast. It does have a little bit of a stopping pattern towards the end, and that runs from Winston Kylestra to Lenway Rialta via Nut Hill City Centre. So in other words, it starts at Winston, it runs across the Winston to Nut Hill line to Nut Hill, then it runs down towards Henning Hall and then turns south, runs through Dreadinghead, and instead of going down to Denston, it continues east and then runs down to Lenway Rialta, which is technically on the Guard City Southeastern, but I thought why not have a Guard City Great Eastern service call there as well. It's probably going to be the only one to do that, but I thought I'd give it a crack anyway and see what happens. So that's the first one. The second one uses the new line that we built between Brenfingli and Winston, and it's basically an all-stopper. I think it does skip out 1 or 2 stations, and it runs from Winston Kylestra to Dreadinghead East, and actually terminates in, hopefully, in the southernmost platform there. If it doesn't for whatever reason, I'll have to go back and check that, but it should terminate in the southernmost platform there. And as I said, it's pretty much an all-stopper. I think it skips out 2 stations maybe along the route. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, can't remember. But yeah, that's that. And then the third one, you might have seen at the top of the video, there was a depot that had some unused HSTs. I wasn't actually looking for them, but I'm kind of glad I found them, because the third service is more of an express service. It's not necessarily, like, it's definitely not high speed, because I think the maximum speed is 75 miles an hour across the entire route. But it just utilizes, you can imagine the franchise managed to pick up some extra HSTs, or they had some HSTs lying around that weren't really being used for anything. So there is an hourly service from Winston Kylestra down to Denston Carnegie, basically calling at all the major stations and a couple of the new stations that were built a couple of weeks ago as well. I should also point out that the Kylestra to Dreadinghead via... Oh yeah, the Kylestra to Dreadinghead goes via Henning Hall Junction, so it actually goes up into Henning Hall and then reverses south again, and it does that obviously in both directions. One of those anomalies on the network, I think Bradford Interchange is one of the only places in the UK where that actually happens. There are others, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. Isn't there one around the Morecambe area that reverses? It might be like a one a day, or like a parliamentary service that reverses to Morecambe. I want to say Morecambe Bay, but I don't think that's the name of the station. But it's around that area. I'm pretty sure I saw a Jeff Marshall video on it once upon a time. And I'm sure there are others, but I can't think of them. Oh, actually, no, that's not true. When I went from Brighton to London once by train, they did actually, the train went into Hove first and then reversed using the triangular junction and headed north back to London, Victoria. So that's another one, and I'm sure there are loads and loads of others. If you know them, comment below. I'd like to actually find out some more of those, actually, because that'd be kind of useful. But yeah, 3 new services, 2 semi-fast-ish ones, and an all-stopper one. There may be scope for more. I didn't want all of these services to run straight to Denston, because I feel like, particularly the line between Drenninghead and Denston is starting to become quite busy. It's only a 2-track line, and I'd like it to stay that way. I've also been very, very lazy with the timetabling, and I've also not added these to the service schedule sheet, because that will be redundant in the not too distant future. I don't know where we're at with the database right now. I'm trying not to be a micromanager on it and sort of letting it do its thing, because we've all got stuff going on in lives, all of us working on it. We've all got stuff going on in our lives. I know for a fact that I've been very, very busy the last couple of weeks. And now with uni kicking off and things like that again, and you know, end of summer and everything, people's lives are getting pretty hectic again. So I don't have a time frame on that. I wish I did. It would be nice. I have asked my brother if he'd like to get involved with it as well, because he does a little bit of Python coding, and he's probably easier to work with logistically for me, at least, because he's always, you know, I'm not living at home anymore, as I'm sure some of you might know. I think I've mentioned it before, but he's also quite easy to get hold of. So, and I've worked with him on lots of other projects, and it goes very, very well, I like to think. So, not saying that people who were working on it aren't anymore or anything like that, but as I said last week, I just want to get as many people involved in this as possible and make it more of a crowd-sourced thing. And yeah, my brother's reliable, so I thought I'd give him a shout and see what he could do. And it looks like he'll be joining us with it, which will be great. He has no interest whatsoever in railways, mind, but sometimes you don't need to be interested in the subject to do a good job. I can't remember where I was going with this. Oh yeah, so the database is now going to be my official timetable location and things like that. So I have a rough idea as to the timetable of these trains. I don't know how the stopping times and everything. Sorry, I don't know how the overall timetable will work start to end, but I know the stopping times at stations. We've generally built up a template for that now. So it's normally at terminus stations, 10 minutes for a super commuter, like a metro style commuter, 15 minutes for a more slow commuter or a semi-fast commuter, 20 minutes for a semi-fast, like regional-ish train, and then half an hour for an express train. I think it's 45 minutes for a high-speed train, but these numbers could change when the timetable comes in and we realise that we've actually got more time than we thought at certain stations. I think there are some hour ones knocking around as well, but that might change. We will see. And then for non-terminus stations, it tends to be 5 minutes for a major interchange, 2 minutes for most other interchanges, and then 1 minute for conventional stops. And then most of the semi-fast / express trains tend to be 2-minute stoppers anyway at most of their stops, but then they tend to stop at interchanges, so that kind of makes sense. In terms of rolling stock then, kept it pretty simple. Obviously the loco hauled is Mark IIs with a driving brake at one end and in fact, does it have a normal brake at the other? I will check, because I've got, as I said, I've got my screen open. So the first service you'll see is a Class 158, sorry, 3-car Class 158 in M4J rail livery. The liveries will change in the future as well, I'm sure. It has a total capacity of 207 passengers, which I think is pretty good, and a top speed of 90 miles an hour, which it won't get to. Top speed on the line is 75 miles an hour. The second train, the second service, uses 1 brake standard Mark II, 3 tourist standard Mark IIs, and then a driving brake standard Mark II, and has a total capacity of 256 passengers, which again I think is pretty reasonable. And then the HST, you might see me move some stuff around actually. So I took out the buffet car. I've kept a first class carriage. I might remove them we could say they're declassified, I suppose, first class carriages, and it has a total capacity of 395. Most of these trains will probably run at capacity. I can't say for sure how many, but I thought it'd be interesting to get these stocks, this stock out, particularly those HSTs running on what really isn't an express service but is being treated like one. The 158s I thought were an interesting choice as well, because I think right now I'm only using those on Guard City Connect or Guard City Express services. So it'd be good to see them out on this part of the network too. Plus I wanted something a little shorter and sweeter than what I'm normally using. It's one of the things, again, I want this timetable database, whatever you want to call it, to help out with, is am I running the right trains on the network, capacity wise? So for example, if I've got a train that can carry 300 people operating on a route where an average of 100 people are moving backwards and forwards, then I could probably run a different train there, and then maybe run like a stock cascade and have the higher capacity stock run on a route that has higher demand and balance it out that way, rather than just replacing trains or adding more units, that kind of thing. Sometimes you can just get away with switching stock around and see if it works that way. But yeah, I keep talking about this database and what its purposes are, and every time I go to talk about it again, I come up with a new purpose. And it was always meant to be for you know, judging capacity, judging timetables, basically managing the entire network, seeing what the trends are for passenger movement, maybe even finding a way to use it for freight as well. At the moment, I'm planning on just using freight for timetabling purposes. So I can't remember the technical term. I know Master Tram's mentioned it, but I can't remember what it was. It's like junction occupancy, I think it's its name, but I might have got that wrong. Apologies if I have. But essentially, track occupation. Or occupancy. Occupancy, yes, probably a better way of saying it. Because at the moment, freight trains are invisible on the network, and they're currently invisible in this database as well, because I'm running off things like platform occupancy, which is great for passenger-only lines, but only really in and out of Guard City, from where the freight loop breaks off, is it passenger-only. Pretty much every other every other line, apart from high speed and Transrapid, obviously, are freight and passenger, dual usage. So freight trains are invisible, and that could be a problem, because I don't want to timetable a passenger train into a station and there's a freight train in the way, because I mean, they won't crash obviously, but the passenger train will get held up. Or maybe having a freight train that's meant to run direct from one place to another, and there's a passenger train in the way and it sits there for half an hour blocking this freight train. That's also not very good. So having freight incorporated as well would be nice, although that will be like phase, I don't know, phase 7 or 8 I think by the time this is all done. But yeah, having a way of seeing passenger movement and then being able to adjust. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to create a stock list and have the stock list part of the database, is if we've got a high capacity train that's being used and there's a route that's in demand of a high capacity train, then we could potentially look at what stock's operating on what routes and be able to move stuff around without having to buy new trains all the time. And that, I believe, is called management, and that is part of the game that I really want to exploit a little bit more, because right now when I'm running with basically unlimited funding, sure, I'm making all these big building projects and things like that, but at the same time I kind of like the challenge of operating within tight constraints. That's one thing I'm enjoying about Transport Fever. If you've been watching my Transport Fever series, it took me a couple of goes to get it right to begin with, but once I got it right, I'm getting it right, because I'm still playing it, and it's a lot of fun. And there are times where I think I've taken too big a risk, and I think, oh no, I've botched this big time. But then I start to see the money roll in again, and I think, actually no, this worked. And, you know, I did some tweaks for this week's video, in fact, yeah, I think it is for this week's video. I've made some tweaks there, and you'll get to see how that works out. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil it for you right now. But, yeah, the database is my way of being able to manage that. And I think it's a cool project for coding, like trying to get something like that to work, as well as, you know, just being an interesting challenge. Can we develop a piece of software that will effectively manage the network for us? I'm watching, there's a YouTube channel called McKinley Railway, and it's a model railway in someone's house, and they are one of my main inspirations for how to run the M4J network right now, because it is just a model railway. Well, I say it's just a model railway, it's so much more than that actually, but a lot of what they do is completely unnecessary for a model railway, and yet I find it fascinating that they're doing it first and foremost, but also I find it really interesting, the little techniques they're using, and they're trying to run it like a real railway essentially. So there's a timetable, there's a database that has all of the stock stored within it, as well as the timetable. It's got computer control, which if I ever build a railway layout, I would love computer control. I have an idea for a railway layout, but it, anyone who watches these videos knows me. I'm very ambitious when it comes to projects, and if I ever build a railway layout, it will be a massive garden railway, and I don't even have a garden right now, so that's way off in the future. But do check them out, McKinley Railway on YouTube. They tend to release videos quite sporadically, but when they do release them, it's always a very in-depth look at a particular part of the railway operations, whether it's designing parts of the layout, which they're doing currently. A couple of weeks ago they did a few videos on the database that they're using and how it works, and I mean there's some factors that they're using that just can't apply to the M4J network, like computer control. Obviously the game, it's a game, so everything's computer controlled, but the way that they're actually treating aspects of the railway, they're trying to run it like a real railway. So they have a timetable, they have stock listing, they have operators coming in and running parts of the railway. So one would be assigned a station, one might be assigned a yard, and there are parts of that transfer over into OpenTTD quite nicely. So as I said, the timetable, the database. We can't have operators managing individual parts of the network, so you can't just manage a station, but you can manage a franchise. Link to my Patreon in the description down below for those of you who are interested in helping me out with that. And anyone who wants to get involved, I ask this every week, but I will keep asking this, I'll keep banging the drum. Anyone who wants to help out with this, I believe myself and George are currently working on creating a series of documents, and maybe even a GitHub or some kind of repository where we can upload all the code that we're working on, as well as the database itself maybe, and people can come in and contribute if they so wish. And I think it'll be a really cool project. It might be just a one and done, it might never go further than what we're using it for here, or it could turn into something that could potentially be used for other people's networks, or maybe even for, if people had a model railway network, for example, and they wanted to use something like this. I don't know where it can go right now. That's not really in my forethinking. I just want to get something that's going to help me manage this network, because at the time of recording this video, I have 1,532 stations. I also have 1,410 trains, 613 road vehicles. Those were just railway stations, by the way. There are other stations that are just bus stops or airports or docks, that kind of thing. But yeah, 613 road vehicles, 43 ships, and 16 aircraft. All of those numbers will continue to rise, basically until I hit the ceiling in the game. That'll be the day I stop, is when the computer's like, no more, definitely no more. So yeah, let me know what you think about that down below. Let me know if you've got any ideas on how to speed up the process at all. I know we've had one person who's stated an interest in helping out. Once again, limited by time, but anyone, even if you're limited by time, even if you think you don't have the time, even if it's just once a fortnight, maybe just checking in, looking over some code for us, maybe testing something. User testing is something we definitely would be interested in as well, because these things do need to be tested. Obviously I'll be testing them on the network, but anyone else who's willing to help out, get in touch. Join the Discord, link is down below in the description. Once again, it's hidden, as is YouTube's way these days. You kind of have to click on the show more, and then I think it's like the third or fourth link down, something like that. But do join the Discord. I'm going to try and get more active on the Discord. I know I've not been present a lot lately, and I apologise for that. As I said, I've been very, very busy over the last few weeks with work commitments, but hopefully I'm coming up with a schedule now that means I can record more content within a short space of time, which means I've got more time for M4J again, hopefully. Plus I've got my evenings back now as well, which is nice, so I can, you know, maybe do like a video or two a day for M4J and then get a full week's worth done in the first couple of days of the week. The main news from that is I shouldn't miss any more uploads, which is good. And again, I will, not many people have asked me to, but I think I will just do a quick summary as to where I've been and what I've been doing and things like that, because some of you might have noticed me popping up in other videos on Facebook and YouTube and things like that. I've been sharing them as and when I can, and some of you might be interested in the subject, so yeah, I'll do a little thing about that at some point when I've got the time, because I do need to find the time to just do my stuff as well again. That work-life balance thing, I've heard people talk about it and I never really took it seriously, but yes, it's a thing and I've fallen foul of it quite a lot. I can't even remember where I was going with this sentence now, but basically I'm around more to do OpenTTD stuff, and I'm going to be around more on the Discord talking about OpenTTD, because as someone quite rightly pointed out the other day, the OpenTTD Discord chat isn't really used much for that at the moment. It tends to be more real life stuff. It was there for that, by the way. It was there for OpenTTD, M4J network, and any transport related stuff. So no one's broken any rules or anything by doing that. But as I said then, and I'll say it again now, you guys do dictate the conversation on there. If you want to talk about real life stuff, like transport, trains, all that good stuff, talk about it. That's absolutely fine. If you want to talk about OpenTTD, whether it's your saves or whether it's the M4J network, that's what it's there for. So please do use it. And I will try and be on there as well, just to help keep the conversation going and things like that. I might try and post some more screenshots of projects that I'm working on, plus chat about the database as well, although that might still end up in its own chat. I haven't fully decided yet. But yeah, you see me hover over Denston here at the end. I think Denston's going to get a little bit of eye candy added to it as part of maybe next week's episode. I want to go back and add some more eye candy to some of these bigger stations. So Henninghall Junction might also get a little bit of a rebuild, just to create more options for platform occupancy. Denston's going to get loads of eye candy added to it, as is Nut Hill. Winston's done. Lenway maybe might get some stuff added to it now, but that might not be high on the priorities list. And I think that's it for the big stations on the GGE. But yeah, that's the end of the episode, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series so far. Drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes, and like I said, please do join the Discord if you want to get involved in the chat, or if you want to help out with the database project. Besides all that, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support, and until next time, which will be next week, I will see you soon.